Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Open Series in Baltimore. I'm Nick Miller alongside Shawn French. How you doing, sir?
Hey, Nick.
Shawn French is a guy I know who likes to play control decks and has been tuning this deck for a good 2 to 3 weeks at our local store in Roanoke. And because I've seen you just put so much work into it, I wanted to make sure we talked about it. You're 3-0 here at the first Modern Open.
Yep.
How'd you come to playing a Teachings Cruel Ultimatum control deck?
I want to play Cruel Ultimatum, so I tried it out a couple years ago in Modern for GP Richmond, and it worked pretty well. So I've been playing it since.
Of all the control strategies, what pulls you to Cruel Ultimatum versus something like Esper or Sultai?
I don't know. At first it was that I could play a Thoughtseize and a Bolt, and then Snapcaster, either one of those with Mana Leak open pretty much early on, but Thoughtseize have rotated out of the deck. Now it's just Teachings and Cruel Ultimatum, Snapcaster Mages. I just like playing the cards in it.
Right, Teachings is something that anyone from Standard long ago would know is just a powerhouse in control, card advantage. You can Teachings for Teachings, or you can Teachings for any of your multiple targets.
Yep.
Let's go over the deck here. You've got a bunch of removal. You've got Terminate, Lightning Bolt, Murderous Cut, along with Damnation, Electrolyze, Engineered Explosives, of course, Cruel Ultimatum, sort of removal.
Right.
But then from there, you've got your Counter Magic and Spell Snare, Mana Leak, and Cryptic Command, correct? Yep. But you call this a Snapcaster made deck, correct?
Yeah. Teachings will most often grab a Cryptic Command or a Snapcaster just to keep casting the same spells over and over.
Right. You're often fetching things like Think Twice to generate more cards, or you get a Snapcaster Mage to reuse a Bolt, or to reuse like a Thoughtseize from the sideboard.
Yep.
What are your main win cons here? You got 2 Cruel Ultimatums, but what are you really winning the game with?
You usually end up taking control of a game. In a few, now and then you'll end up racing, but you usually win using the 4 Creeping Tar Pit, the 4 Lightning Bolts, the 4 Snapcasters, and you usually only get to that point after you Cruel Ultimatum them or grind them out for longer.
Right.
The 2 Tascars are neat.
Yeah. That's a card that's popped up not only in Standard, but also Legacy. How's he doing in Modern?
I haven't used them much, but every time we play them, me and Phil back in Roanoke who have been testing this deck, the opponent just kind of stops attacking for a little while. They can't bolt it, they can't decay it. The only decay targets in the deck are Snapcaster, which isn't great, and Engineered Explosives, which if you play around it, you're fine. And usually, so like out of the Abzan or Jund decks, they've already used their Liliana, and it's been countered or dealt with, so Tascar will sit around and really only get trumped by Tarmogoyf if he's big.
So he's just kind of there. Once he lands, people aren't really getting through with their attacks.
Yep.
If you ever actually get to activate his ability, you're getting back very good cards.
Yep.
You've got the 4 Creeping Tar Pit. Was those numbers ever in flux, or did you know you needed those to close out games?
When I started working with this deck a couple years ago, I copied Paul Cheon's list that he had made some videos with, and it had 4. And since playing it, I just like having 4 of them. If you have a Bolt, a Snapcaster, and 2 Tar Pits in play, you can go from countering their spells and playing control to killing them right away very fast.
Sort of like the old school Fairies thought, where you control, flip the switch.
I don't know, I played Cruel Ultimatum when Fairies was legal.
Very good answer. Let's take a look at the sideboard here. You've got some discard stuff, 3 Thoughtseize, and then you got 3 Vendilion Click. However, no Vendilion Click in the main deck. Just not good enough main?
You could play 1 or 2 main. I don't know what I'd cut for it. My sideboard is pretty untuned.
That's what we like to hear here in the sideboard. Untuned sideboards. We've got Surgical Extraction and a Devour Flesh is like an edict effect, basically.
Yeah, Devour Flesh is great for the deck. It's better when everybody's running Geist of St. Trapped and Thruns because it just gets those real easily. You can grab it with Teachings. You can cast it with 1 black source. If you have your Swamp and you've been Blood Mooned, you can still cast it.
Good against the Boggles matchup, I imagine.
Yep.
3 Slaughter Games. That's a card that we haven't seen a lot of.
I'm doubting that one with this deck. Post board, all the decks that I'd want to hit with it are pretty diversified, so there's a lot of times where I just cast it and I lose anyway.
Okay.
If it's the Summer Bloom deck or Twin or Scapeshift, they all have other ways to kill you, even if you hit their main card, so it might be better to just play a controlled game and be more flexible than to have a slaughter games, but it's in my board for today.
It's a powerful card. In our modern testing, you slaughter games me twice with Amulet, taking Hive Mind and Primeval Titan.
But I started on turn 5, so you had a chance.
We'll forget that part. We'll talk about how you strip my deck from all the win conditions, which I imagine you can do later on. Now, my favorite card in the sideboard, Teferi, a perfect card with teachings, will just win you control matchups on their own.
Yep.
And now 2 counter Flux.
Yeah, I'm probably hating, now looking at it really hard on the other control decks, being Twin or some of the red, white, blue decks with Click, Spell Pierce, Counterflux, Teferi, Thoughtseize against some of them, but the main deck can handle a lot of creature decks. I just played, round 2 I played against Goblins, and round 3 I played against Affinity. There was one close, both matches went to 3 games. There was one close game in all 3 of them that I ended up winning, but if you can get through the early couple turns of the game, you're usually okay.
You've got a plethora of removal for the creature decks. What are you looking to not play with this kind of strategy? You know,
what do I not want to play against?
Right, have you figured out your bad matchups?
What I played in round 1 is almost unwinnable, but somehow I got him 2-0. His draws were not good, but it's red, green, Tron. They get, what's the Ugin land that lets you search for Emrakul?
Right, Eye of Ugin.
Eye of Ugin. They play that, and then if they play 2 more towers, I can't counter the Emrakul. I won't have the edicts.
Right.
Maybe I should play more of those for that.
So the big mana decks like Tron are not ideal?
If it was just a big mana Tron deck, it'd be okay. It's Emrakul that's the problem. I can't stop them from getting it because I can't play Tech Edges. I don't want to play any colorless mana sources, so I can cast Cruel Ultimatum all the time, and I just can't counter it. When I played it in round 1, in game 2, I clicked Emrakul out of his hand, made him search it up again, Thoughtseized it again, and then raced him with Lightning Bolts and Tarpets.
Interesting point you brought up there about the no Tech Edges is your mana base is very color intensive. You've got a lot of things like River of Tears and Reflecting Pool that are shoring up the mana base.
Yeah, those were the fast lands. I changed these recently. They used to be a Blackleaf Cliffs and a Darkslick Shores, but I wanted to try to make them come into play tap less often. So River of Tears, kind of like it was in Fairies and Standard, it's black on your turn for Thoughtseize, but blue on their turn for Mana Leak or Cryptic Command. Reflecting Pool might be risky, but so far it's worked out today.
All right, well, Shawn, the deck is sweet. Thanks for sitting down with me here in the sideboard. If you're looking to play Grixis, this is a great starting point. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Baltimore.